Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review,
And in this edition, we'll be talking about the Miami Dolphins at the Oakland Raiders. And this matchup in Week 4 will be happening on September 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on your local CBS affiliates is where you can catch it. This is a classic matchup between two of the older franchises in the league. And they're both having disappointing seasons so far. The Dolphins started off beating the Patriots in Week 1, but they have since fallen apart as they lost to Buffalo on the road, and then they lost at home to Kansas City, and now they're just 1-2. The Raiders are 0-3 as they've yet to win a game. As they lost to the Jets in New York, then they lost at home to Houston, then they went to Foxborough and lost to the Patriots. Derek Carr has shown some promise, and the future for him does, have a potential silver lining, a Raiders silver lining, potentially. But right now, it just seems like it's too much for one man to overcome, as there's lots of problems there in Oakland. Their one bright spot for the Raiders is their passing defense. They're actually 4th in the NFL in passing yards allowed per game, is they allow less than 200 passing yards per game. They allow only 183.3 passing yards. So their secondary, led by Charles Woodson, still even at his age, he's one of the premier corners even still, and he's leading that secondary, and they are shutting down teams. Of course, they haven't really gone against that prolific of a passing attack, but they did hold Tom Brady, although Brady's been kind of struggling this year, but he's still one of the greatest of all time. Of course, the other two quarterbacks they faced were Geno Smith, who actually is better than people give him credit for, and then Ryan Fitzpatrick, who I also think is underrated as well. The Dolphins, though, they also have a good secondary. They're 7th in the NFL in passing yards allowed, and they also allow under 200 passing yards per game. Of course, they do allow 15.4 more yards at 198.7 yards per game allowed through the air against the Dolphins. But still, that's pretty impressive. Run defense, on the other hand, is a whole other story, as neither of these teams seem to be able to stop the run, especially Oakland, as they are 31st in the league against the run and passing yards allowed. So the Raiders are a team that just gets ran all over, and so you should expect Lamar Miller to have a huge week against the Raiders. Of course, the Dolphins don't do much better against the run. They're 20th in the league, even though they do allow, 32.4 less points or yards on the ground. So they allow only 125.3 yards on the ground per game, whereas the Raiders allow 158.7 yards on the ground per game. So it looks like it's going to be a running game, and it looks like we're going to see Lamar Miller put up some big numbers, and it looks like Darren McFadden might actually reach 100 yards for the first time this season. He's only got 111 yards on the ground so far, period. Of course, Mojo, Maurice Jones-Drew, hasn't really got anything done either. He's only got 11 yards off of just 9 carries. He's been pretty much non-existent. James Jones has been doing pretty good when he, gets the chance. He does have, 189 yards off of 15 reception and a couple of touchdowns. But when you look at their numbers overall for passing, both of these teams are in the bottom of the league in passing. The Dolphins are 29th. They're both tied for 29th in passing yards per game at 190. So both Derek Carr and Ryan Tannehill have not really put up big numbers by any stretch of the imagination here in 2014. On the ground, though, the Dolphins are actually a pretty decent running game. They have 137.3 yards per average on the ground so far this season. Sean Moreno came out the gates really strong, but then he got injured. But Lamar Miller, he's he's a starter on most teams. So when he went down, you still got Lamar Miller, and he's been putting up the numbers as we've seen. Miller had 108 yards last week in that loss. If he can put up those kind of numbers again this week, they should win this game. Of course, the Raiders, they struggle to run the ball. They're 31st in the league in running yards, as they only have 64.3 running yards per game, as their running game is basically non-existent. I think that's going to end up being the difference in this game, is that the Raiders cannot run the ball, whereas the Dolphins will run the ball. It should be a tight game. It should be a close game. It should be a low-scoring game, actually, with how good these secondaries are, both teams. But I expect the Dolphins, they'll pick up their field goals. The Raiders probably get a few field goals. Dolphins punch in the end zone once, maybe twice. The game probably stays within one possession. Maybe the Dolphins push it to a double-digit lead. But in the end, the Dolphins should win this one. They'll even up their record. So they'll be 2-2 at the end of this, and the Raiders will still be winless. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Very interested to hear your opinions. If you enjoyed this show, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, as we bring you more and more video every day. We have Upon Further Review. We have our weekly show, The Wedge, which has lots of great stuff in it. You should check that out. We also have recaps for every game. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy the football.